Hey everybody, it's Tom Wilkie with another episode of FolkUSAmericana, and today I have such an amazing guest. You're going to love it. Just want to welcome you to the show and know that there's no regularity to my posting the shows, but if you go to my Facebook page, Tom Wilkie, THOMWOLKE, I'll announce on there whenever there is a new episode to air. So, without further ado, I'm really honored today to introduce an old friend of mine who I met maybe 12 years ago, 13 years ago. He is an author, composer, and fund manager, he runs this beautiful studio, Alair Studios, overlooking the beautiful Ashokan Lake Reservoir here outside of Woodstock, and his name is Randall Wallace. Please welcome Randall, who also is, interesting to me, is the grandson of one of the true progressives in American history, Mr. Henry Wallace, who was a politician in the 30s and 40s. And great to have you here, Randall.
Great to be here.
So, a fund manager or fund
advisor.
Fund advisor. I'm a fund advisor, but I don't know what a fund advisor is. Tell me about.
A fund advisor distributes funds from a 501c3. It's like a foundation when they want to give money. The person whose job is to give the money is the fund advisor, advises how the fund should be spent.
And you have the Wallace Foundation?
Wallace Action Fund, correct.
Wallace Action Fund. Do you, you mentioned earlier to me today that you spend an enormous amount of time running that philanthropy, would be the right word?
I call it philanthropy when you make the money yourself, but if your job is to distribute something to someone else, I mean, the money exists because of Henry Wallace's actions, not mine. So then one out of 3 eggs eaten around the world is Henry Wallace, and a chicken it comes from, and like 40% of the sorghum and the wheat and all this stuff is all Wallace, so that's where it comes from. Because he's a geneticist more than he was a vice president. Yeah, so it's distributing, where the cash goes, and I could hire people to do that, but then I wouldn't know myself, so I do the work myself instead of hiring, and then the information is better.
So, are there particular causes or projects that the Wallace?
I do. My brother has another one called Wallace Global Fund, and what I do is stuff that would get me in trouble, like Henry Wallace got into. So it's very easy to get into trouble. So if you think Palestinians deserve human rights, you will get in trouble. If you think that maybe bipartisan permanent war is not the greatest idea or in lines with the teaching of Jesus, you'll get in massive trouble. So there's plenty of positions to take in American society that are completely accurate, where you'll get in lots of trouble. So I prefer to go that way. And in the words of FDR, I welcome their hatred. I mean, it's much more fun to set it up that way than to try and get along with a situation that's untenable and leads us towards economic collapse and extinction.
Right. Can you, I don't know what the rules are behind this. Is there an example or two of something that you funded?
Yeah, like with Jeremy Scahill, I funded for him to go to Congress, and he made changes with how we have Blackwater type of mercenary groups and such. I fund Noam's, the transcription of all of Noam's writing.
Noam Chomsky.
Run the largest police crime database for crimes against people of color and women by police officers. It's called the Henry A. Wallace Police Crime Database. So I use the funds to do things like long-term projects that I think are really fun. Like right now, Black Agenda Report has so many great articles that just tell the truth that we're not used to hearing from a black perspective. So I give to them, and anti-war causes like Black Alliance for Peace, as well as Code Pink. So one's run by one social group, one's run by another. Which one is better? That's not the issue. Give them both the same, equality and see what happens. And it's just going to be great because they're invigorating the anti-war movement from two different sides.
Yeah.
Where did you get your start? I mean, this program is mostly about those who circle around the music business in one way or another. And what I mean by the music business is more the world that I'm a part of, the folk Americana, rootsy music world, as opposed to pop stardom. And where my theme of it is to understand how you got involved in anything related to that, and how you witnessed the changes over the last 30 years or so in the music business, and most importantly, how you adapted to it. And I'm curious how you got started here by owning this just truly magical recording studio atop this mountain, and what steps led up to this being here.
When Grandpa was running for president in '48, Yip Harburger wrote Brother Can You Spare a Dime, and more importantly, we know of his Over the Rainbow song. He started working with Grandpa and writing some songs, as did Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger. So Pete Seeger wrote I Got About and some things like that. And so Pete was the musician for Grandpa through the campaign in the South. So that worked out really well. What a great way, back then in '48 we had campaign songs. Now it's just, there's no campaign songs. It's like, give me more money, let me sell out the pharma, and you can't make it rhyme, so it's not a song. So it's not really the same thing as it was before, where you actually would say, the donkey and elephant go up and down on the same merry-go-round. Now you look like, oh my God, how dare you? Well, back in '48 it was being said and sung everywhere. So that's funny,
You were not around, I suspect.
No.
At that point in time. But where did you start to become aware of not only your grandpa, but obviously you're aware of your grandfather when you're young. But when did you start putting music into your life?
My mother was a concert pianist, so at age 12 she played with Eugene Ormandy in the Philadelphia Orchestra. So she was, that was her field. So I grew up with the music. It's just that I didn't do anything well. It took me a long time to get going into music.
What was your first instrument that you picked up?
I did piano, but my mother discouraged me, and then I did other instruments, and my mother discouraged me. And then at one point I just said, who cares what my mom thinks, and just kept going and having fun. I mean, I thought the original idea was to enjoy yourself.
Right.
So, and then that was it. So it's just, I don't have to wait for, like in the Kafka thing, where the guy doesn't, waits to be asked to continue, when the job is to continue on your own.
So when did you land here?
I went to Fiddle and Dance with Jay Unger for many years. Contracted Lyme disease and thought I've got to not sleep outside during camp and let me look for like a cabin or something. So I was looking for like a cabin in the woods next to Ashokan. And on a flight I found in a magazine a photograph of this place with the reservoir behind. And I thought, well, this is not necessarily a cabin, but if it's going to be priced like this, maybe I should rethink it. And so I came up with Jay Unger. We came up, and that day went through the place with his fiddle, and I recorded him walking around and just checked it out.
Oh, wonderful.
So then I got the sound of it. I knew how all the room sounded. And
what year was this?
that was about 1998.
Relatively recent.
Yes, 2 years before the millennium, yes.
Yeah.
So your original intention was to find a place to not get bit by ticks.
Right.
And then you came here with Jay and said, this place is magic.
Recording studio.
You did go into it with that in mind.
Yeah, Jay we were just sitting there going, my God, this isn't a place just to have a campsite.
Right.
This is where, let's turn this into a studio.
And so you built upon that and created this wonderful space.
Right.
Where did Allaire come from?
Allaire came from my sister, and being in a WASP family, when you die, no one mentions your name again. So it was comforting for them, not so comforting for me. So I thought, well, I'll name the studio after. And so I named the studio, and they go, how's your studio? And I go, okay, this is not working. So later I named my child Allaire, and so that the theory was now they can't say, how's your kid? At some point they'll have to say the name and repeat it. So that was what it was originally.
An ode to love.
Yeah, she died of leukemia, and she was my favorite family member. So when she died, I thought, what a shame that, you can't mention the best of us. So what are we going to do, talk about the worst of us now?
I'm not going to go there.
No, it's more fun to, remember your favorites,
How did you then go about, I suspect that Jay recorded here? And
Yes, Jay was my first record here. And so, so that was great. And did a show in Farewell, I think it was that record, Harvest Home, I believe, was the first record done here. Yeah.
Oh, great.
And it just worked out really well.
I don't know anything about the recording business. How does one go about attracting clients? I mean, you're here in Woodstock, and there's a wealth of musicians and history here in this surrounding hills here. But how did you go about attracting people? Just word of mouth, advertising?
Bits of everything brought in clients.
Back then, of course, there were record labels. There were budgets to record albums, and I guess getting to know record labels themselves is a part of that mix.
Right, but I don't communicate too much with record labels. They pay the bills, and they come in, and like the last band had 2 record label people who would come here and spend one night and just talk with the artist and sort of leave, but they weren't really involved with the recording.
Right.
So usually that's the producer aspect.
How did you attract producers?
People are, there's a few individuals whose job is to tell everyone this place is not open. So if wherever those 2 individuals are not, people can get the idea that this place is open. So I'm fielding calls.
So you never have closed?
I never closed for a minute.
Right.
I mean, the point is that when the staff left, they told everyone it was closed. And it's the owner's job to say whether it's closed.
Right.
So that really hurt for a long time. And then I just said, this is pointless. I only did this place for musicians. It wasn't like I was trying to hurt them with this place. I was trying to give them the best view they could possibly get in a studio, which still is the best view. And then just come up, relax, we got all the equipment, and do that. So it was meant as a way where you can get away from all these issues and commune with why are you making this record, and give you the timbral variations, because we have so many kinds of weird instruments that you'll have the timbral aspect of your record to distinguish itself from others.
When you started out and started gaining a reputation of a place where musicians, rightly so, want to record and just be inspired, not only by the view, but just the air and the sounds of the birds and the animals and the peace that I found here in the last couple of nights that I've been blessed to be here. Yeah. Do you feel like it attracted a certain kind of clientele, or did anything go, so to speak?
We've had pretty much the same kind of a client each time, which is someone who really needs this, where you don't hear cars, you don't hear planes and clocks, and you kind of are not concerned what time it is. You're concerned with it's time to work, you know.
Right.
You just stay on it and you don't do anything else. But it really changes. I walked over to an area over by my cisterns where I could hear cars again, and I was like, what? So I didn't know that, you know, you can start to hear them. So
Right, right.
As the business changed from major gatekeepers, record labels, saying what to listen to a more do-it-yourself kind of ethos of musicians DIYing it, becoming their own labels and becoming their biggest salesmen of their records. Did that affect the recording industry?
I believe what we're getting mostly are people doing self-finance records, and then the record label, you know, grows a pair and decides to put the money behind once it's guaranteed that it sounds good or something.
Right.
But I'm seeing, you know, privately funded stuff like the group just comes in and then they'll have the product and they'll kind of own it, you know.
Do you think, do you personally like that model?
At least it gets it done. Many times in my life, I just go, I can wait for someone to give me the permission, or I'll just go and do it myself, and it'll be done a lot faster.
Right.
And then if I'm lucky, I'll get reimbursed. If not, at least it's done.
Right.
And I think that's, so it's a hard one to answer, because I was not, when I bought this place, the studio business was dead. I knew it was dead. I knew you'd be an idiot to build a studio, and I built a studio anyway, intentionally, because I said, you know what, there's no better place for the view and this, and someone's going to get it. I'll just build this, and because the way I would want it, which is I need all these, I need this sound, you know, quick, where's this instrument, where's that? And it's here, so you don't have to drive to the bottom of the hill, and then you can just get back to work.
Right,
You know, and
right. So it's almost like that, the Field of Dreams, you build it, they will come.
Yeah, you build it and they will come. Right, right. And I would look at different studios, you know, like Capri has a beautiful studio, but you have to like have a 100-foot guitar cord to stand up and see the view. And you have to, you know, and only one person has a 100-foot guitar cord, the drummer can't do that. So then that didn't work, you know, and I would go to different studios trying to find out, you know, what are my competitors and what's good and what's bad. I like Sonic Ranch, it kills me in my equipment, incredible equipment, but of course it's a long distance from anywhere, and this place is 2 hours right from New York, and then that place doesn't have a view, but it's beautiful, this place has a view. So it depends what you want, you know.
Yeah.
So people can make their decisions and go, definitely I'm going to there, or I'm going here. But I just knew this had its own USP, what do you say, unique selling proposition,
Right.
preposition, or whatever the word is for advertising, you know.
Right, right.
Did you think that right from day one?
Yeah, when I came in here, I thought, ooh, this would be a recording studio, because it has two big rooms which will have great acoustics. And this room we're in right now is on Altiverb. So Altiverb is a company that gives you digital impulses for rooms. So it shows you the room sounds where you can play you can make a record through this room. So if you go to Altiverb,
Really?
you have 3 rooms in Alaire Studios, the Great Hall, the Neve Room, and then this is, I guess, the porch. And so you can actually get the impulses for this room. Because this room is excellent for solo cello and solo violin.
It is beautiful.
It has good acoustics.
And when the windows are open, a lovely breeze and the sound of birds, which I absolutely adore.
Yeah.
And let me move on to something else about you, because I was entranced over the last 2 days of getting to hear you play snippets of music. And I know you don't personally view yourself as a high-tech, high-end musician, but I was captured by the charm of your enthusiasm for music. You mentioned picking up instruments during the COVID period, of just like, well, I need to learn this one. I don't know how to play that one. And how do you find music as a part of your life?
It's much easier to pick up instruments than we're told. Each instrument has a certain aspect that we're not talking about, that once you put it into position, it makes sense. Like, someone picks up guitar and, oh, my fingers hurt. Most people quit because their fingers hurt, You're going to get past that very quickly, but that doesn't matter. That's why most people stop. And so each instrument has these certain things that will dissuade you. And you just get past it. In the case when COVID hit and I decided, all right, let's try trumpet, I said, let's do a week. At the end of a week, you've got a full 2-octave scale, chromatics, you've got them down. And so you've got basically the basic setup of the thing, so now just put in some time. But at the end for the first week, you want to quit, I'm suffocating, I'm losing my air, I can't breathe, And then after a week, you stop with the stupid I'm suffocating thing, and you stop with all this garbage and the excuses of why I should quit. And you realize, hey, almost every instrument's like this. You get past that little hurdle, and you're fine. And now you have to deal with what's really there, which is motivation.
What motivates you in music?
This timbre, the sound. When you play it and say, wow, that's a clarinet, wow, that's sounding pretty, it's great. And I think of it as this: in the course of an hour, you've got 10 golden minutes, and then you've got maybe 10 minutes where you want to just completely never touch the instrument again. So, but you know what I mean? When you have the 10 minutes where it's working, you realize that's giving you this idea of where you're headed.
When you're doing music, there's the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. There's the analytical and there's the artist and whatnot. Do you ever find yourself, because you are a very smart businessman and organized and whatnot in all that you're doing, to switch over to the other side of the brain and become engrossed in the art? I have never been able to do that, although I guess my art is doing photography, and I do it for myself. And if someone likes it, great. But I've never had to, because I don't do it enough, I guess, I never thought of myself as switching sides of the brain to get that part engaged in the art of things. Do you ever have a moment where you're switching between analytical? Are you being over analytical when you're being an artist?
I think of it as playing. I don't know the other side, because I'm 26 years. I was a commercial photographer, so I was doing fashion and beauty for about 20 of those years and stuff. So that was only photography, and all I wanted to do was music, in my spare time. And it wasn't my job. I used to say I love, like photography I can do when I'm not in the mood, no matter what. And whereas with music, I'd rather do it because I just love it, not any other reason.
Doing it for the love of it.
Yeah. So I think of it as myself. I think of myself as the photography and stuff is sensually seeing. What can I show you from what I'm seeing in a sensual fashion? And the same with music. So I think of it as being identical. It's just that one is seeing and one is hearing. It's the same thing to me. And then the other parts. The other part of the brain that does all the business and everything, I think I suck at. I think I'm terrible at all that stuff. I'm very bad at reading people. I'll find out later, people will say, oh, that guy you thought, and I'll go, whoa, my God, I never knew that. So I'm very bad at the business and the reading, and I leave that to people who do it well.
Right.
I respect them more every year when I realize my own limitations.
Mm-hmm. Good point. You're also a composer. Soundtrack work.
Film score?
Right. I've done 4 film soundtracks, and so most of the work that I'm doing in music is because I know what I need. And when I listen to film soundtracks, my training is all guitar and piano, which is a lovely idea, except they're both percussive, which sucks. So most of the film soundtracks that I like don't really have much guitar, some piano, but mostly not much guitar, because I need where you have a note like da, it gets louder, guitar will never get louder with a volume pedal. So it's just you don't have this ability to hold tones and such. So that's why all these instruments come into play, because if I can put 4 tenor saxes, 3 alto saxes, put the baritones and the clarinets and all this stuff, and I start to play lots of instruments on it, then I can get this thing I want for film.
It was fun watching a film last night with you, and there was a little bit of music going on, and you said, "Okay, here comes the orchestra," and sure enough, just as you said that, the orchestra kicked in, and I was sitting at the table laughing, just saying, "That's really great." Do you hear music when you're seeing something cinematically in just this view? When you see things, does music come into your head and say, "Ooh, I'm watching this beautiful scene unfold in front of me, and I can hear"?
Like if I drive somewhere,
Yeah.
if I go somewhere, I often don't have music on because I can't stop hearing it. And if I keep hearing it, I don't know whether it's mine or someone else's. I'll just be hearing music, so it doesn't really make a difference. Sometimes I'll put on, but other people's things. And I have a massive library here of CDs of stuff, so that would just mean I have days of opera and days of symphonies and quartets and all this. So whatever it is I'm looking for, I'll have days of that music here when it comes time. But then I don't necessarily stay on it. I just, at certain points in time, I'll get back on the music where you're listening to it. But much of the other time, like right now when we hear these birds, this is what Carlos Jobim is doing. He's living in Brazil when he was alive, responding to the birds non-stop and thinking, oh my God, that little snippet. And there's a lot of him discussing, the effects of not the music, but just the wildlife and trying to capture the rolling surf or something. And so I think in that sense, it's not necessary to be all music providing it's human music,
Where do you see yourself going in the future with this studio and recording? And have you ever integrated this part of your life, your studio part of your life, with your philanthropy aspects of your life, of dealing with the fund, dispersing your grandfather's fund?
Do you ever think of melding them?
Yes, but that would be where you have a place, you have a lot of the top activists, If Noam starts traveling, I can do a conference within here and bring in people where, you bring in your top minds and then mic them all up and they're all sitting with Noam and you have a great conversation. And this is a perfect place for that. It's just that, given COVID, certain things like right now, it's holding pattern with Noam leaving where he is or thinking any other thoughts.
Right.
And most of my friends who are over 90 are, holding firm right now.
Right.
And saying, we'll see at some point,
Has the fund ever funded music-associated projects?
I did a project out in the West Coast for Joe Hill with Tom Morello and Joan Baez and a bunch of others. That was the last thing I did. I kind of don't want to do it because it's the musical stuff it has to be really strong. And also for me to get involved, you have to be hated. You have to be doing something that someone's really angry that you're doing.
Right.
And otherwise, it doesn't take that much courage. So it's more fun to do something where maybe there's a chance that there's going to be a big change or a big payoff.
Right.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to chase projects that that have no end, or where the chance of making an impact is viable.
If you do a right music project, you're a threat to someone, and if that's the case, then I'm all for it. If it's going to change notions of maybe seeing the occupation in Israel as illegal as according to international law, then let's go for it, you know. But if it's just going to make people think, you don't like Jewish people, you know, then I'm not going to get involved with it, you know.
Right.
Right. Well, I want to thank you for all your time, Randall. I could sit and talk with you for hours, and we have had lots of nice conversations. I appreciate your ways that you've adapted your career over the years. I think that it's a great model to be able to adapt, but also to hold firm to your beliefs and to your truths. And I have a great deal of respect for that. So I want to thank you for being indulging me with a little bit of your time and being a part of this and helping me. And thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.